Hello P6. For today's measure activity, we are going to be doing some work together online, and then you're going to be completing a worksheet on your own. So what we're going to do next is we're going to think about measuring using millimetres. Now millimetres are those tiny little measurements that we find in between the centimetres on our ruler. So we're going to do some practice first of all online. So what I want you to do is go to www.interactive-resources.co.uk and we'll need to log in. So to log in to that, you'll need our username, and the username for everybody is Brooklands with a lowercase b. And then the password is exactly the same, Brooklands with a lowercase b. Now once you log in to that, you'll see down the left hand side of your screen you will have a list of all the different folders, and what we need to do is scroll down, and we're looking on the left hand side for teaching length, and then we're going to open the very first activity there, which is called What's My Length 15 centimetre ruler. Now when you go to open it, you might find that you also need to allow Flash Player in order for this activity to work properly. So I'm going to make it full screen and I'm going to click on Begin. Now I can see on my screen a 15 centimetre ruler, and I can see all the individual centimetres from 0 all the way up to 15, but in between those centimetres I can see lots of small divisions, and those are millimetres. There are 10 little millimetres that make up together 1 centimetre. And we use millimetres when we want to measure something very exactly. So if we're measuring something and we want to get the absolutely exact length, we'll use centimetres and millimetres as well. Now, before I do anything else, I'm going to hide these two boxes. So I'm going to hide that 9 and the 0.9. And I'm going to concentrate first of all on where the hand and the arrow are. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to click on it and I can pull it across back and forth. So first time I'm going to drop my arrow and I'm going to drop it right there. So let's think about where that arrow is pointing. Well, I could see that it's gone between 7 and 8 centimetres, so it's more than 7 centimetres, not as much as 8 centimetres. But it's gone 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 millimetres after the 7 centimetres. So I could say that's 7 centimetres and 5 millimetres, or I could write that as a decimal, and I could write it as 7.5 centimetres, which is 7 centimetres and 5 millimetres. Or what I could do is I could count just in millimetres. So every single centimetre is worth 10 millimetres. So 1 centimetre is 10, 2 makes 20, 30, 40, 50, 60, 70. And once I get to 70, 5 more. So I could also say that the arrow is pointing at 75 millimetres. Let's have a go at a different one. So I'm going to hide those two boxes and I'm going to click on the arrow. No, I'm going to click on the question mark at the bottom of the page. And when I click on the question mark, it'll choose a random length for me. So let's see where this one is. Okay, so I have gone past 13 centimetres, so I'm somewhere between 13 and 14. Oh, and look again, I am exactly halfway between the 13 and the 14. So I know that halfway between the two is another 5 millimetres. So I could say I'm at 13 centimetres and 5 millimetres, or I could write that as 13.5 centimetres. If I was to convert that into millimetres, remember there's 10 in every single centimetre, so 10, 20, 30, 40, 50, all the way up to 100, 110, 120, 130, and 5 more makes 135 millimetres. Let's do one more. So back to that question mark at the bottom of the page, and this time, okay, well let's see where we are this time. So we are between 10 centimetres and 11 centimetres, but where's the arrow pointing this time? Well, it's not exactly halfway between the two. This arrow is pointing 4 millimetres after the 10 centimetres. So 10 centimetres plus 1, 2, 3, 4, little millimetres. So I could say that arrow is pointing at 10.4 centimetres, or 10 centimetres 4 millimetres. If I change that all into millimetres, well, again, I'm counting in tens, so 10, 20, 30, 40, 50, all the way up to 100, and 4 more, so it's going to be 104 millimetres. So what I would like you to do now is pause the video, and I would like you to go and have a go at a few of those yourself, okay? Remember, you can use the question mark at the bottom of the page to move the arrow, or you can do it yourself by moving it up and down from the top of the page. Pause the video, go and do that, and then come back for part 2. So for part 2, we're going to close that screen, and what we're going to do instead is we're going to go and look at a different game within our teaching length section. So I want you to scroll on down the page, and we're looking for an activity called division decisions, and again we're going to stick with our 15 centimetre ruler. So when I launch it, again I'm probably going to have to enable Flash Player. You might need to do this, you might not. I'm going to make that full screen. And when I click on begin, again I can see a ruler. Now this time my ruler hasn't been divided up into lots of little millimetres and centimetres. I can see the centimetres and I can see half centimetres. But what I'm going to do, if you go down to the very bottom of the page, what you can do is click on the centre button, and it will change the ruler, and I want it to look like this. So I can see centimetres, but I can also see millimetres. And before I do anything else, I'm going to hide all of these little boxes. So at the top of the page, I have got 2 arrows this time. I've got a red arrow and a blue arrow. And what I would like to do this time is I'm not just going to think about where each arrow is, but I'm also going to look for the difference, the distance between the 2 arrows. So at the minute, they're both quite close together. So I'm going to move the blue arrow, and I'm going to move it so it's pointing exactly at 8. And I'm going to move my red one, and I'm going to put it right there. So let's look at the red arrow first of all. Where is the red arrow? Well, I can see that it's past 1 centimetre, and it's 5 millimetres past the 1 centimetre. So that would be 1.5 centimetres. Or if I was to measure that in millimetres, 10 plus 5 is 15 millimetres. So the red arrow, I could describe it as being at a distance of 15 millimetres or 1.5 centimetres. Where is the blue arrow? Well, it's exactly at 8 centimetres. And if I was to change that into millimetres, I could say it's at 80 millimetres, because of course there are 10 millimetres in each centimetre, so 10 times 8 is 80. Now, what we're thinking about in this part is, can we work out the distance between the 2? Well, if I look really closely, what I could do is I could do a takeaway sum. So what I could do, let's start with the millimetres. If the red arrow is at 15 and the blue arrow is at 80, well, 80 take away 15, well, if I do 80 take away 10, I get 70. Take away another 5 is 65. So our 2 arrows are 65 centimetres apart, and I can prove it to myself by going back. So 10, 20, 30, 40, 50, 60, 65. So I've done a take away question. 80 take away 15 is 65. Now we don't need to do another take away question to work out what that distance would be in centimetres. I just need to look at this 65. So 65 millimetres. Well, if I put that back into groups of 10, 65 is 6 groups of 10, so 6 full centimetres, and another 5 millimetres, so 6.5 centimetres. Let's hide all of those, and let's go and do another one. So this time we'll use the question mark at the bottom of the page, and we'll let it help us out. So there's our two arrows and they've both moved. So we've got the blue arrow now is on the left hand side and the red arrow is on the right hand side. Well, probably the easy one to start with is the red arrow because I can see it's pointing exactly at 6 centimetres. So if I click on the 6 centimetres, and I know by now that there are 10 millimetres in each centimetre, so that's going to be 60 millimetres. Where's the blue arrow? Well, I can see it's between 1 and 2, so it hasn't got as far as 2 centimetres yet. It is, well, there's 5 millimetres, 6, 7 millimetres after the 1. So I could say it is 1.7 centimetres, or I could say it is 17 millimetres. Again, we're going to try and work out the distance between the two. So I need to do a take-away sum. This time the bigger number is the red. So we're going to do a take-away sum beginning with the red one. So 60 take away 17. Well, 60 take away 10 is 50. Take away another 7, 43 millimetres. So there's 43 millimetres between these two arrows. Now, if I use that information to help me work out that as centimetres, well, 40 is going to become 4 centimetres and another 3 millimetres, so that's going to become 4.3 centimetres. Let's do one more together. So, next thing we're going to do, we're going to click on the question mark again. Ooh, bigger numbers this time. Right, let's work out where these two arrows are. So, the easy one I think this time is the blue. So look, can you see the blue is pointing exactly at 11 centimetres? So that's an easy one. 11 centimetres, and if I do 11 times 10, that'll tell me it in millimetres. So 110 millimetres. Now, where's that red arrow? Well, it's more than 13 centimetres, it's not as much as 14. Now, if I look carefully at it, I can go back 2 millimetres before the 14. So that tells me it's 13 centimetres and another 8 millimetres. So that would be 13.8 centimetres. Or if I change that into millimetres, well, 13 times 10 is 130. Add another 8, 138. Can we work out the distance between the two? Again, we're doing a take-away sum, so whichever number is bigger, we're going to start with it. So 138 take away 110. Well, I can ignore the 200s, I can ignore the 100 at the start of each of them, and if I just do 38 take away 10, well, hopefully the answer is 28. So 28 millimetres between the two. What's that going to be in centimetres? Well, the 20 becomes 2 centimetres, the 8 becomes 0.8, so 2.8 centimetres. So P6, for the next part of your task, I want you to go and log in to this part and go and have a go also at having a go at a few of these on screen. And then afterwards, there is a worksheet for you to download, and I'd like you to have a go at measuring in both centimetres and millimetres. Write the distance above each arrow, so measure it carefully, write the distance above the arrows, and then find the difference between the two.